Hi babes, welcome to Hamilton's Halogen, and this is your friend, Carrie Hamilton. This is a place where darkness meets illumination and truth becomes your turning point. Just like a halogen light burns brighter and hotter to reveal darkness, this podcast is about bringing light into places that many avoid. If you've ever felt lost in the dark, this space is for you. It's time to stop surviving and start shining. Good morning, babes. Starting out my day with you before I head on out. Today is April 1st. Many think or feel they look at this as a new year. Those in business know that it's the beginning of a new fiscal year. Those in astrology know that it's the Aries season, so new beginnings, new, initiation to things. Many say this is when you really need to bring in your abundance in life. And also it's spring and, things are sprouting and beginning is starting. And many say also that the old times, so like Julius calendar used to begin in April, and then it was changed over time. So whether you believe it or not, we'll just say, let's just go, right? It's the beginning of the year. And with that being said, so many are suffering, so many are lonely, so many are in the darkness. And I hope that maybe this will bring new beginnings for you, talking about, why is it that we do suffer? What is loneliness? What is, why do we feel trapped in dark places? Why do we ask for God to release things and, we don't feel that anything happens? And I want to kind of explain that and hope that maybe I could give you some sort of awakening as to why that could be. So in Exodus 3:14, it says, God spoke to Moses and, they had asked, well, who do I say that you are? And God replied, I am that I am. Now, if you transfer that translation into Latin, that means ego sum qua sum. So ego sum qua sum is I am that I am, meaning that you are self-existence. Your internal thoughts are your external presence. So it's basically God defining himself as unchanging, that he's not dependent on anyone or anything. And that leads you to the mind. And I know that I have preached to you many times stating that the mind is the most powerful tool that you have, because it is your mind that creates internally your external life and beliefs. So when people go through spiritual awakening, many of them say, oh yeah, I went through an ego death. And they'll say things like, I realized that, some people were for me and others weren't, and who showed up and who didn't, and things like that. And that's exactly what a spiritual awakening is you are literally killing off the ego. And I hate to use the word killing, that's probably not a good word for me to use, but you're basically shedding that ego. Because what the ego is the ego is everything in life, all of the experiences you've had in life, that is who shaped you. So you having that mother or that father telling you that you are worthless and you're never going to amount to anything, that formed into your ego and into your beliefs to believe that now as an adult you are nothing and you never will be, and so forth. Same thing with experiences. We went through tragedies, tragic events, things that put trauma in our minds, that now our mind wants to create this safe space and this, comfort and safety for us, because that's what the mind is supposed to do. And we made that into who we are now today. So now we will, let's say, I'll make up something. Let's say, you were in a house fire and that was very tragic for you. So now the color red, every time you see that, it makes it, triggering for you. That is actually your ego talking. Your ego is saying, hold on, there's the color red, that can mean fire. You might not escape. It'll bring back all of those memories from when you were in this fire, when you were a child. This is why healing, when people state that, is so incredibly important. We don't mean, when people say heal, we're not saying heal from that relationship that just broke your heart 2 weeks ago and that, you need to get over it. No, what healing is going back literally from the beginning of your life and saying, well, why did I even entertain this individual to begin with? Why did I feel that they were the love of my life when really they were the most catastrophic thing that I have just experienced? What inside of you is making you feel that you are not amounting to anything better than? Why did you not put yourself at a level higher than to be with this individual who is broken or maybe doesn't know love and can't show you love? That is what you're healing. I personally, and I've shared this story with many of you, I came from childhood abuse. I came from childhood abandonment. My father abandoned me pretty much at birth. So I was raised craving love from a man that I never had. But yet, how could I crave love from a man I never had if I never had that to know what it is? So that's why I had entertained broken relationships and people that were hurting and suffering and, treated me poorly, because that was my ego of what I knew love to be, because I had a father who didn't do his job to take care of his children. I had a stepfather who abused myself and my sister. Like, that childhood abuse made me feel that abuse was all I was good for. That was all I knew as comfort, even though I know in my head it's wrong, right? Like, obviously it's not right to abuse people, but that was my comfort, and that's why I fell to less than. Another thing, like I would say to people, obviously if you see a homeless person on the streets, you're not going to go date them, because in your mind, your ego knows, well, I at least could afford a home, so I'm probably not going to entertain somebody that's sleeping in a garbage can. It's like that same principle if I were to put it into logical terms. This is why you need to, and healing is not for the weak. It hashes up old things that you went through, tragedies, things that you've stuffed away and that, you aren't facing because it hurts, it's painful. But it's supposed to be, because it's supposed to bring out that trauma that you experienced, and it will enlighten and awaken you as to why you're in the situations that you are in today. And I know I've said this many, many times, but you cannot heal if you do not feel. You have to feel to heal. And I know people will probably balk at this when I say this, but right now with so much brokenness, I'm going to say this right now. If you are someone that is hurting and in your mind you're saying you're never going to date again, screw men, screw women, I hate them all, whatever words you say, I'm going to tell you right now, that tells me, as a certified life coach who specializes in trauma and am nationally certified, that you still have healing to do, because you cannot heal at all the deepest wounds that are inside of you until you have a feminine or a masculine to offset that. Because the feminine and the masculine are the two that have to be put together to reach those most intimate, deepest parts of our bodies. So believe it or not, men and women, we need one another to heal those deepest parts of our souls, because only a man can bring a woman and only a woman can bring a man to that deepest, intimate part inside of ourselves. We could scratch the surface. We could, talk about whatever scenarios that hit us deep, but the only way is through intimacy that you reach that deep part of your body. So keep that into consideration when it comes to healing. Experiences are neutral. You actually choose how to perceive them. What I mean by this is whether something is a positive or a negative situation that you are in, it isn't positive or negative until you make it that way. You are not reacting to life. You are shaping your life. Every breath, every belief, every silent agreement, the desire without direction is delay. The universe cannot flip or switch until you commit. So this is why when you hear me say you need to be spiritually fed and not emotionally led, I'm not meaning spiritual in a sense of religion. I'm meaning spirit, your authentic self, what you feel, what truly resonates with you in your soul, in your spirit. That is what you need to feed. You need to feed the true you to become the authentic you, because otherwise, if you don't, you will always literally lead life in emotion, because your mind will automatically fall back onto the comfort zone of what it knows. So this is why people act and react to things in emotion, because they're just going based off of beliefs and experiences that they experienced in their life. But if you feed that mind spiritually fed information, meaning this is how I really feel, this is who I really am, that is who you are going to then overpower the emotion end, and you are going to lead within spirit, which is who you are. And anytime you follow your heart and you follow your soul, the abundance is unimaginable. Think about it. Think about a project or something that you've had or that you've really felt in your heart that it was for you, you wanted to do it. Think of how wonderful and how involved you were and how successful you were in whatever that project was. That's because you led yourself spiritually and not emotionally, not by the emotions of what other people say or thought of whatever that situation or whatever that thing that you were building or creating yourself. You led with your spirit. And that's what the ego is. The ego is all the outside noise and distractions, building the emotion versus the spiritual part of you and what you do and what you want. So when you lead an emotion, you're leading an ego. You're leading based upon what you went through, based upon what so-and-so said, based upon what your mom and dad always told you you were, based upon, religious beliefs, any type of beliefs. Like, if that isn't what you truly feel in your heart, then that's not you. So this is why when you go through spiritual awakening, there's so much shedding, because suddenly the friends you hung out with don't see eye to eye with you anymore. You realize that you're now leading in your spirit, and you're realizing that the things that they say, you're like, whoa, that's not attractive to me anymore. This is why I also harp on people that if you're married and you're, maybe you're not fully done with your divorce, or, you're not, maybe you want to get divorced, but you just haven't taken the chance, and, then people go and they cheat and they, become an adulterer. You're not actually going to things that are for your spirit. You're going through the desires, which are the outside distractions. So you're going based upon what you're lacking in your marriage. So for instance, if it's, intercourse that your wife doesn't do with you anymore, you're going out and you're looking for that intercourse to feed that hole, that missing void. But it's not spiritually what you want. So that's why then when people get caught and they're, they'll say, no, it's not her. I love you, but she just was there. She gave me the attention, whatever, because your heart is telling you what your spirit is saying, that, you love your wife, but then your desires and your emotion is saying, but I needed that intimacy that I haven't been getting. That's why it's so imperative to heal and not lead into the emotional aspect of the subconscious world and what people say and do, and leading in that emotion, because you will still end up in the same boat that you've been in, just with a different person. Loneliness and suffrage are part of the ego. You see, loneliness is misidentified with identity, as opposed to the essence of who you really are. And suffrage is a form of isolation, being separate from love. You're feeling separate, and that's a desperate feeling. And evilness and the devil love desperation. That's where they feed off of. So this is why when you are healing, you have to do the inner work so that you don't keep falling into the same habitual things that your mind knows as comfort and knows as safe. Your mind is there to save you. That's why whenever people say, oh, my mind and my heart, I feel so, two different things. Oh, I follow my heart. Oh, I follow my mind. Because your mind is going to automatically put you at where it feels safe. Even if it's not safe, it can be unhealthy, healthy versus unhealthy, but that's what it knows as safe. So that is why if you don't heal, let's say those childhood wounds, like me, for instance, with abandonment and childhood abuse and things like that, my mind then veers towards the safety part of it, which is falling for those same type of men in my intimate relationships, because that was what I knew as an intimate relationship with my parent, or the man that was supposed to show me how a woman should be treated from birth. And that's why if you keep finding yourself in the same circumstances and you keep getting broken people, or you keep getting hurt, that's not to blame them, it's to blame you. You are attracting that. You're falling on your safety and your comfort, and you are going after those types of men. So sure, yes, they are the ones that hurt you, but you are the ones that are attracting that into your life. And there's a reason for that, because you need to heal those past wounds so that you can level up and you can put yourself at a level of what your soul really wants, which is the respect and the, honesty and the commitment and so forth. So the next time that you are out here praying for change, you're praying that you get this job to make more money, you get this home that you will change the life of your family, you want whatever it is, insert whatever. You have to remember, God will remove to replace, but he can't replace until you commit. It's a relationship. God doesn't want someone. Think about somebody that you care for and you love, and they just use you all the time. They only call you when they want something. They only call you when they need something. That's a horrible feeling. God doesn't want to be that person either. You have to commit. You have to surrender. You have to allow what you don't see go. God has a peripheral view of everything. We see what's in front of us or on the sides of us, and you have to let go of what isn't for you and accept the things that happen, even if they're so gut-wrenching and heartbreaking. There's a reason behind it. There's a lesson to be learned. There's a reason that it's going to open doors of other things. We right now want to focus on what's exactly happening and, thinking there's no way, our mind wants to say that, this is the end. This is the end of the road. Like, there's no way we can't do, I can't get this. I'll never have money. I'll never have this. Don't speak those things into existence. What you need to do is surrender and just allow God to do the work within you. And you will, I promise you will see blessings. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you a story of when I still allowed my ego to base my mentality of life and what I always felt, being in that victim mode and saying, I'll never be this, I'll never get that, and so forth. My spiritual awakening came from an abusive relationship. I literally almost lost my life. And even though getting away from an abusive relationship is obviously a saving grace, it also comes hand in hand with so much loss. You were financially attached to that person, emotionally attached to that person. That person abused you, not only just physically, if you were in that situation, I'm talking about myself, but mentally. They break you down because that's how they manipulate you, is to feel that you aren't and you cannot amount to anything in life. So it plays such a huge mental toll on you. And it was suicide. I went and I was going to take my life, and at the moment that I went to perform it, a light bulb went off and burst, literally shattered, like sprayed everywhere, the glass. And I instantly bawled my eyes out, and I knew that was the sign that there's more for me out there. And so I still stayed in my victim mode. I mean, right, we're all creatures of habit. So my habit was still, poor me, I'm never going to be this, And I started changing my mindset. I started realizing, it was a friend of mine that every time I would speak something into negativity, they'd be like, no, hold on. No, you are this. They would always correct me. And so I started training my mindset to say, I'm on the side of the road with a flat tire, but, now I'm changing my mindset. But I didn't die. I'm not in an accident. I'm going to be okay. Yes, this is going to suck. It's going to be $400 for a tire that I don't have, but God will make a way. And, I just kept training my mind to be that way. And a couple years ago, I swear, whenever something breaks, homeowners can probably relate to this. Whenever something breaks, everything breaks. So at this point in time, my car needed new brakes. I was literally riding on the metal, but I need to use my car to get my children to school and to work and so forth. And I could hear it when it was stopping. So I basically was, just praying that I would stop every day, right? And then my washing machine broke out of nowhere. I even tried calling the manufacturer, seeing if hey, could I get maybe it was just a piece that needed to be replaced. No, of course, the whole entire stupid memory board blew up. And I remember just crying and being like, I can't catch up. I cannot catch up. I can't catch a break. And then I said, nope, stop. God will provide. God will provide. And you guys, I kid you not, and it brings tears to my eyes every time. On Facebook here, on TikTok here, I try to talk to everybody because I have been in that low place, and I have been in that part of, anyone that is suicidal doesn't want to die, you guys. They feel that they're already dead. They feel they're living in death every day, and so they want peace. That's what they want. They want the peace. They want that weight to just be taken off of their shoulders. And what do we say to everybody when people pass away? We say rest in peace, right? So we think that peace is death, and so we crave it. We actually, our brain, instead of saying I can't do this anymore, it now becomes you just need peace. You just need peace. It's your brain is just, again, it's the most powerful tool that we have. And so I know having that feeling inside of me. So I talk to people on here because there are so many people that are in lonely places and, trying their hardest and feel they keep, 2 steps forward, 10 steps backwards. And, we all have been there. And if not, some of us are still there. And so talking to this man on TikTok, he just was venting away to me. I was there talking to him, and it just so happened this random day that he had checked in with me. That was when my washing machine broke, my car, and so forth. And so instead of him giving it to me, I just let it all loose, and I was crying, and and he can't see because obviously it's TikTok, so you're messaging back and forth, and I'm crying. I'm just he caught me at a bad time, and he said, why don't you go get your car fixed? You need that for your kids. And I'll give you my number and you could put it on my card. I'll give you my card. I'm no, I'm a giver. I'm not a taker. I can't be the one. I can't take $10 from somebody. I feel I have to pay it back, And again, that's the ego, because love is something you receive. And gifts are what you receive. So, anyone's ego that has that sacrificial love or that conditional love that they were raised in, they want to, obviously they have to give back because that's how they were raised, that love is conditional, not unconditional. And so long story short, my car was $2,400, a new washing machine was $1,000, and this man paid for it. And I said, I don't know how I could ever repay you. I was beyond thankful. And his exact words were, I did this because God told me to do it. I felt it in my heart that God had me do this. And he said, all the times that you had talked to me, he said, you saved me. You were love that I was looking for, someone to give me that love, because He's an older gentleman. His son is older, lives his, life. I think he said his son was like 30 or something. And so he's just, the loneliness of a lonely old man, right? And to hear that and to know, it was like a sign for God to know that I was trying. I'm changing my mindset. I'm, trying to know and surrender to him. And that's when the abundance comes. I promise you. Like, if you are not in a place that you belong, rejection is protection. And you have to surrender. You have to allow God to do his work. If you are truly at the point where you just need a break, you can't control anymore, you guys. You can't control. You have to surrender, and you have to let it be what's going to be. And if it's that love of your life leaving you, and if it's that, feeling that you're going to be homeless because of, the person that beats you is the one that pays the bills, maybe they have you financially strapped. Like, I promise you, you have my word. If you surrender and you allow God to do his work, it's going to be scary. I'll be the first to admit. But it is through great suffrage that we find great love. And it's the love that is in your soul, the love that actually hits you. Not that surface level love, not that fake love. It's the love that you've been looking for. And so I ask you today, as I go on my day, to let today be a new beginning for you. Let it be the start of changing that mindset. And give yourself grace. Rome was not built overnight. And your rebirth will not be done overnight either. You are a masterpiece, a piece of the master. And it's about time that you know and you see that, and you stop allowing the ego of those old beliefs and those situations and experiences and the fear that you have inside of you. Fear internally is hatred externally. So when you have that hatred or those things that you hate men and you hate women and this person's this and that situation is that, you have to surrender all of that. You have to get into the mental part of you that releases all of those burdens and seeks only those blessings. And it begins with training your mind to see positivity and to react always in a positive manner. Don't allow the negativity to even come into your life. That's why when you go through spiritual awakenings, those friends they're not your friends anymore. The family, there's even family that you distance yourself from because that negativity is like poison and it will eat you alive. You have to start training your mind to be in a positive aspect, because that is where peace begins. And if you are anything like me and you were tired, you're just tired, the peace comes, and it begins with the mind. And the mind is what trains everything else to follow. You have to start seeing the blessings throughout the burdens and know that it could always be worse, and that there's someone out there praying for exactly where you are today that you may take advantage of. Health, anything, children, anything. Count all of your blessings. And keep those blessings at the forefront. If you have to, make a little piece of paper, and every time you're having a bad day, pull out those blessings and read them. Read them over and over again, and remember that's the reason why you keep going. The mind is just like the body. What you feed it, you will project. If you eat junk food, you're going to look like you eat junk food. If you feed your mind junk, you're going to react in those emotions of that junk. You have to let go and let God. And I'm here for you any step of the way that I can help, especially shining light into situations, someone that you need to vent to, anything. I don't judge. I never was a judgeful person, but even more so knowing that we all are human. We all make mistakes. We all have been there. We all are in dark roads, have been down every single one of them. I know now that I've been through what I have been through because I'm here to help, and I know that. So let's start today on a new foot, a new life, a new outlook, and finding that love that's within you.